Hello and welcome to Planeo. My name is David Fuchs, and in this video, we're going to talk about avoiding the 10 most common mistakes when installing click vinyl flooring. So that you can enjoy your click vinyl flooring for years to come, it's really important to avoid mistakes. As you can see here, a vinyl floor is elegantly and beautifully spread out in a large area where people live, cook, sit, eat, and enjoy and relax. It's very important to know exactly which very common mistakes to frequently avoid when installing. And that's what we want to present in this video. Avoiding mistakes, point by point, step by step. Come with me, I'll show you. Right off the bat, the first point, and also one of the important ones. This is when the goods are delivered to you. You can see here we have the material properly packed. We have the vinyl at the bottom, the click variants, and the impact sound insulation at the top. It's really nicely tied together. Also here, when it's delivered, make sure to check that there are no damages on the sides. Then the goods come into the house. And now it's indeed very important. Please don't start the installation right away. The goods have now traveled to you for approximately a day or two, and they are exposed to different temperatures. Once here in the warehouse, it safely goes into the truck and then into your house. This applies both in summer and in winter likewise. Please, when the goods indeed finally arrive, let them stay in the designated rooms for a period of 24 to 48 hours so that they can properly acclimate to the ambient temperature. Very important. Now we want to move on to the next point, and this is one of the most important points. Before you start with the impact sound insulation and the process of laying the vinyl floor, it's really important, such as carefully and thoroughly, before the goods come into the room, it is important that the subfloor is carefully and thoroughly checked and ensured that it is properly prepared. And you have a tolerance of approximately about 1 meter to 2 or 3 millimeters of undulation in all of them, or so. This is really important so that the click variant holds up later. You can see that here in this room, it has already been leveled, even to 0 on the tiles. Everywhere there should be a homogeneous surface. You need to prepare this everywhere for all types of subfloors. Otherwise, your warranty will be void whether you have a wooden subfloor, an old PVC underneath, or carpet, which is definitely not acceptable. The subfloor must be perfectly prepared. Absolutely, as the manufacturers specify, otherwise you won't have any warranty. We want to move on to the next point. This means that the subsoil is now adequately prepared. And this is certainly really one of the most common problems due to warranty issues with improperly prepared subfloor and not properly prepared subfloor. Then it gets laid down. Now the goods arrive after delivery. What do we do now? Now the packages are at this moment being carefully placed in the rooms where the subfloor is prepared. And now, before you roll out the impact sound insulation, it's very crucial indeed, of course, that you really thoroughly read through the packaging units. And that's what very few people do. No matter which manufacturer, no matter which brand, type, or category of flooring you buy, it's crucial that you really read the installation instructions in detail, because if you end up with a warranty claim and the manufacturer finds out that you didn't strictly follow their specifications, such as and completely as per their guidelines, then unfortunately any claim is void. In any case, that's it, it's over, ultimately. Then the sales rep will back off and say, I'm sorry, you didn't follow the instructions, you didn't read them. That's why, to the experienced installers, please read through this carefully and thoroughly. It's included in the necessary packages. Take the time, read it through very carefully and thoroughly, and really stick to these extremely important points. Then the actual installation will work properly, and so will the warranty, and you'll enjoy the flooring for years to come. Next point, and one of the common mistakes is of course buying the wrong impact sound insulation for the vinyl flooring. This means that you should also stick to the manufacturer. Buy suitable impact sound insulation from the right manufacturer. Also make sure to use the appropriate impact sound insulation. Also, windmills, no matter where, it's always crucial not to buy a cheap foam for vinyl flooring. You can't do that, it's too soft, and the click connection will wear out. It has to do with the compressive strength. You will also find this in the installation instructions. Please make sure to follow the manufacturer's guidelines. Absolutely crucial. Carpets don't work. It's really important to highlight common mistakes. Wrong impact sound insulation for the wrong vinyl flooring as expected. Next point, one common mistake is that customers have installed too close to walls, columns, staircases, or anywhere near floor-to-ceiling windows. So that doesn't work. You absolutely have to maintain the gap even with the click version. Depending on how much light comes in, the surface can significantly heat up, expand, and subsequently change. Vinyl flooring doesn't expand due to moisture absorption, but rather due to temperature. And for that reason, you need to keep at least a minimum of 5 millimeters of distance away from all objects. With a lot of light coming in, this might not certainly be enough. Then you might also go further, depending on which baseboards you have. If you keep that in mind, then nothing can go wrong, and it won't end up getting fixed in place and causing gaps in the room. For that reason, please make sure to maintain expansion joints. One more very important point where installation mistakes often happen is right in the first row, especially if wedges aren't used. This may not be the most important thing, but it's definitely helpful, especially if you're doing the installation yourself in that first row, or pay attention to something fundamental. Taking the wedges is crucial to the process. It is important, so make sure to order them. Work with them. It really makes sense, especially if the walls are crooked and uneven. If the walls are uneven, it becomes extremely difficult to transition from the first row to the second row when the first row keeps giving way. And the best way to do that is with wedges, by properly supporting the entire back.
This approach helps you to achieve a nice, clean line later on, especially now that you're laying the next row. Then you should work with a short strike or something like that, using a mounting block or just your hand so that the first row doesn't keep slipping away. That's why the wedges are so extremely important, and then it sits really nicely and well. That's why installation mistakes often happen, sometimes because no wedges are used. The next installation mistake that I want to emphasize, I want to demonstrate to you, is directly related to laying the vinyl floor. It's about the click connection. There are actually, in fact, two main click connections on the market. Once we have the lock connection and once we have the drop down, I'll basically and essentially show you that. You can't really mix the two. That means if you've specifically ordered a vinyl flooring with drop down, you can't install it like you would with the lock connection. I'll show you the two differences and give you some additional helpful tips on that. I'm now going to talk about the lock connection. In most cases, the front side is not hammered in from above, but rather it is typically securely clicked in. Position them upwards and align precisely. This is crucial for lock connection. You really need to rock it downwards like this and then it clicks in. That's actually a main criterion for the lock connection. You can't do it from above with a hammer strike. That won't work. That will break the click connection. This also leads to very, very common mistakes. Afterwards, you really end up breaking the connection and it won't hold properly. And now you can work very carefully and really neatly into the next row. I've now shown you the side connection, where the end side is also clicked in. So from the angle, I'll talk about the drop down. It works differently, and you should really pay attention to what kind of click connection you've purchased. That's very important. The drop down is also approached this way. The first row has to be absolutely clean, which means it has to be aligned properly. But it's not clicked in, but just laid in from above. Make sure to align it carefully and securely in place, properly and evenly, to ensure stability and precision. Now, as you can clearly see, it has not clicked in yet. In this case, you take a rubber mallet and gently tap it down. You can't do that with the other one and vice versa. That would destroy the connection technique. Both are quite good. Personally, I always find the lock connection a bit better. It's easier to work with, so both are really of good quality.
Once the front side is angled in, that is the locomotive connection, and the other time with a rubber hammer, that is the drop down. Please never use the rubber hammer on the other one and try to angle the drop down in. They destroy the forehead connection, the nose, and it no longer holds properly. There are real mistakes that actually happen there. Take a look at our installation videos, examine closely what you've purchased, and then proceed exactly as described in the video. A very common installation mistake is when we don't maintain the gaps between the individual rows properly. That means, as you can see here, they worked very, very hard on it from row to row. That means indeed the correct distance between the individual rows has not been maintained. You can also find this in your installation guide, usually around 30 centimeters. It shouldn't be smaller than that. What could happen if you lay it out like this? These are weak points. It means that if the material expands, the sun comes in or the underfloor heating starts up, the material pulls apart, and then you get little steps like this where the seams can open up. And then many customers feel this and complain and say, man, my material, the click connection in the front doesn't hold, etc. Very often the case. The distances were not maintained. If you do that, you'll have the best fastening or the best stability at the end joints slightly. That way the seams won't just open up. Please pay attention to that. The next point, and a very common mistake, is that in large rooms, people often lay the flooring continuously. And that won't work. We need to add an expansion joint, usually somewhere around 10 meters If you're not exactly sure about that, make sure to really read the installation guide there. Very important, expansion joints must be incorporated in vinyl flooring, especially if they already have a separation in the screed. So please don't just think about it and lay over it, that won't work. You need to bring the expansion joint from the screed up, just like you can see here. You can see it very clearly. The two rooms are separated. Here the screed is separated where you need an expansion joint. Here we also have the 10 meters. Please make sure to maintain the expansion joint there as well. A lot of mistakes can happen if you don't. It tightens up later, it works very hard. Seams form and that doesn't work. Maintain the expansion joint. A common mistake also occurs when excessively heavy furniture or objects, such as large sofas or tables, are placed on a vinyl floor. You might wonder when something's too heavy. When is a kitchen too heavy? Is a living room cabinet? Is the built-in cabinet too heavy? When should I not work under it? You can't say that in general. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a weight specification, but rather with the wing load. But just a tip, if you have a kitchen with a granite countertop, please don't lay the vinyl underneath, but rather on top of it. If you don't have that and say, I have no idea how heavy it will be with all my dishes and everything else. And you notice in the first season of the heating phase, with underfloor heating, the material starts to shift and then you end up with seam formation somewhere in the kitchen area. Then it's very common for the kitchen to often press down too heavily on the substrate, which fixes the area in place. The other area can move freely, but this area cannot, and seams will form. Then we recommend that you simply work on it with a multi-master after the first season. You can get that in our shop. We help with that. We also provide you with additional advice. That's where mistakes and potential seam problems often arise, but you can easily avoid all that if you pay attention. A common mistake often occurs in the ceiling at the end, especially with floor-to-ceiling windows or at the edges in the bathroom. If you want to seal that with silicone, please don't use acrylic. And you definitely should not use this silicone without a PE cord. That means if you just pull it off, you can also make it look very nice. But if it's connected to the substrate, then you would have securely fixed the floor at 3 points to the wall on the floor onto the vinyl. And that doesn't work. So definitely work with a PE cord so that we only have 2 points. Then the material can also expand and stretch quite well and it won't tear. That's indeed very important. You should just pay attention to that. That's where installation mistakes often occur. We've come to the end and wanted to present in this video the 10 most common mistakes that occur during the installation of click vinyl. And we wanted to make you aware so that you can avoid them by looking at these points. And of course, you can definitely get each individual point presented in more detail in videos on our channel. Browse through the channel, visit the page at Planeo, give us a call, get in touch. Of course, we will definitely help you further. I hope to see you again. Until then, goodbye.